start here. All right, so we're recording now. I've got Nick and Steve and Danny sort of off camera, and Tammy's going to join us soon. And we're here to talk about getting 9mm to the next level. And what I thought after I looked at all the material that you guys have sent me, I read it all now, Steve, is that usually for a business like this, it all comes down to money. I don't know if you guys agree with me. You know, I like the branding. I haven't yet had a chance to taste the drink, but I'll take your word for it that it's a very good tasting drink. Yeah, again, I hate you for A, spending so much time on Reunion Island without taking Nick and me. And B, I've never had a can yet, so I only see it poured. But seriously, at the end of the day, I think it all comes down to money. And you know, one of the goals I think we have set ourselves is to raise a significant amount of money. I don't think it'll be enough to raise $500,000 or even $1 million. I think the goal should be higher than that, but I'm not sure you guys agree with me on that. Do you guys agree with that?
Yes, I agree. 100%.
Because there's very big competitors out there. I mean, I don't have to tell you. I mean, I think the biggest, as far as I know, is probably Red Bull.
Red Bull and Monster.
And Monster, yeah. Which one is bigger, Steve?
In the United States, it's Monster.
Monster is bigger, okay.
Worldwide, it's number one. It's Red Bull.
I thought so, yeah.
Yeah. But,
so one of the goals I think we should set ourselves as a group is to raise $10 or $15 million rather than
Bruce.
Yes.
Bruce, can you just accept me into the meeting? I have to call from my phone because my internet is not good.
Okay, so we're waiting for Nick to come back. Steve, you can hear me okay?
I'm back.
Okay, so we've got Nick, we've got Steve. Steve, you can hear me okay?
Perfect.
And Danny, you can hear okay?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. So
yes.
I think we should all agree, if in fact we all do agree, that the goal is to raise $10 to $15 million rather than 500,000 to $1 million.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Okay.
If you want to compete with that.
If you want to play with the big boys, and you know, $10 or $15 million is a lot of money. There's no doubt about that. But you know, I don't know what Red Bull or Monster spend on their marketing, just their marketing budget, but it's probably quite a bit. It's probably much larger than that. So let me ask you the first question. Let's assume that we were successful in raising $10 to $15 million. What would you do with it?
Especially if our target is to use social media, we need to focus on marketing and advertising and be present to use. Now you have I don't know if you hear about the energy drink Bang. So Bang, there was nothing before. They start to be on influencers start to use an internet, and now it's I don't have the numbers with me, but they reached the number 4, number 3 now in the United States, and I think in the last 2 years. So they invest a lot in marketing. It's today I think it's even Red Bull put 80% of their budget on marketing. So I think the money need to be used in marketing and to use the good influencers, the network, be present on the big event. I think it's the most big part. We need to use the money on marketing.
Okay, and you know, because investors, whether they're sponsors, strategic partners, whatever, they're always asking, what are you going to do with the money, right? And if we answer, we're all going to go to Reunion Island and party for a year, we probably won't raise very much money.
I don't think.
You know, although that might be a great thing to do for a while. But seriously, we need to know, do you have a marketing plan?
Yes, Bruce, I'll step in regards to the marketing plan. So the marketing plan, as we're building the business plan, we will be working very closely with Creative Trend.
Right.
We had a few meetings with Creative Trend, and that's where John's going to step in. So I know that there's also be probably a smaller investment in the business plan, but we will go back and have a discussion with John as soon as we have more of our, I would say, our business model between us, and say, John, I need a marketing strategic plan that will be parallel to you know, the vision or the business plan, the strategy, the vision. We, you know, Creative Trend, they have some big projects on the table right now, but I think that the initial approach, the initial approach would be, Maverick, je suis sur un appel. Oui. The initial approach will be to bring them on, and we'll pay for their services, and they are open to see the traction that we will get, and to maybe start working in the near future on more of a royalty approach. So this could help us to save a lot of money. We would still be paying for the marketing services, but at cost, and give them a royalty on the gross sales of the business.
So I just shared my screen with you, Nick and Steve and Danny. And we know some of these people, right, Nick?
Yep.
So we've got John on the right, Yves in the middle, and Andre on the left. So a question for you. When you say that Creative Trend will be hired as a consultant and also hired, you know, on a royalty basis, if I'm understanding it correctly, what we're talking about is they will be not just doing a marketing plan or a marketing strategy, they will be acting as an agency. Is that correct?
Yeah, they will become the extended arm of 9mm. They will become our marketing department.
But there's a difference, Nick, and I want you to really focus on this. There's a difference between a marketing plan or a marketing.
Bruce, I just want to Ritchie try to get in. I don't know if you saw.
Oh, okay. Hang on. Yeah, I can let him in. There we go.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks for reminding me, Steve. Zoom used to just allow people to join, and now I have to actually admit them. It's a pain in the neck.
No problem.
So we have Ritchie joining us. Ritchie, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys. Can you see me? Or
We can. You look just like
Yes.
Brad Pitt, but he has more hair.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm jealous. So Ritchie, we're just talking about what our goal is to raise some money here, and what I think we've established is that our goal is not to raise $500,000 or $1 million, because we're going up against Red Bull, we're going up against Monster, and they're pretty big organizations. So our goal is to raise between $10 and $15 million. Okay.
Okay.
And then the next question I asked was, well, for Monster and Red Bull, it's pocket change, but for us, it's a big number. So so we have to raise our sights a little bit and raise a bit more money than a few $100,000 or even low millions. Then the next question that we're going to get is, okay, we've raised $10 or $15 million. What are we going to use it for? And Steve said that about 80% of that amount, if I heard him correctly, is going to go towards marketing.
But this was number of Red Bull, if we watch the blueprint of the biggest company, it's kind of numbers they use with marketing. So.
Okay, so fine, I get that. But then the next question is, I asked is, who's doing the marketing plan? And Nick said it's going to be Creative Trend. And Ritchie, you can see Creative Trend on the screen here. I just booted them up so that everybody knows who we're talking about. We're talking about Yves and Andre and John. Nick, are your kids talking in the background?
Yeah, I'll put myself on mute. Sorry,
I
guys.
apologize, but it's a little hard for me to hear myself talk. I love kids, by the way, but I got 5 of them, just so you guys know. But anyway, coming back.
Bruce?
Yes, sir.
Bruce, could I just add something? So just, you know, as just thinking about our meeting today, thinking about the strategy. And I know that sometimes it might be easier to find a 1 million to 2 million as the initial stage of investment as a first round than find 10 to 15. And let me just kind of take a step back and kind of just share with you a bit what I've been thinking about. You know, the thing is, we can run this pretty lean by having different distributors. So if we think about the global plan, international plan, we can have distributors that will take care of purchasing the product from us, and then they take care of business development and marketing within their country. Okay, we give it to them at a certain price, we make a profit on it, they put a PO in, and then we ship X worth. 50% when they put the order, 50% before they pick up the product. So that's one thing. That doesn't necessarily need initial investment because they are themselves paying for the order that we are manufacturing. So that's the more of the international approach. Now, on a more national / United States approach, where I see that we could have an edge is the fact that we would be partnering up with Creative Trend. Creative Trend has more than 500 million people in their network, and 80% of those people are in the United States. Okay, so if we're able to maybe as an initial approach to go between $1 million to $2 million investment, I think that I have even some people that I could approach and have a conversation with for that amount. I think that we could put a strategic plan in place where we would have a manufacturing facility in the US. We would have a 3PL distribution company, could be Amazon to start. And what is starting to happen right now, and COVID is actually just, it's putting fuel on the fire behind even people having a monthly subscription where they would be ordering a case or 2 cases of 9mm online. I was talking to Steve about it, and I think that we need to make sure that the retail price, we wouldn't try, we can't shoot ourselves in the foot. We would have to sell it at the same retail price that later on the B2B approach would sell it in their stores. But the extra is that people would get this kind of wood case of 9mm that we've all saw, and it would be delivered in those wooden case at their doorstep. Now, yes.
I really like this. I think it's an excellent approach, Nick. But here's what happens to most startups. They get about 90 or even sometimes 95% of the way to the finish line, and they run out of money. Because everything that you will do will cost money, and everything you do will take longer than you expect. So I'm okay with the idea of doing 2 rounds. I think that's a good idea, Nick. But I really think that if round 1 is $1 or $2 million, round 2 is 9 to 13 million, and I think you have to plan for that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I just think that we are able to have a more baby step approach with the US, where we could be the distributor and we would make so much more profit. So when we're coming and we're actually presenting to a potential investor, I mean, there's just so much more profit on the table. Steven and I kind of calculated the profit pretty quickly. So just to give round numbers, it would probably cost about, let's say, 50 cents per can, and that's with the cap on and with the wooden case. We could sell it at about $3 a can, so there's about $2.50. If we would turn around and put $1 per can as a marketing budget, meaning we could start with an initial order of about 250,000 cans, or let's say 500,000 cans, it would cost $250,000 to manufacture that order. Then if we turn around and we put another 250,000 behind marketing, let's say 50,000 a month for 5 months with Creative Trend, I know that with 50 grand a month with these guys, I know we can create a buzz in the United States online.
Very
And
cool.
then we would be able to see, you know, what is the relationship between the marketing spend and the sales that are happening online. And I think parallel to that initial launch and initial round of investment needs to be part that we are going, we are very active in connecting with different EA companies, EA teams, because I really do believe that if we're able to get these guys, like that's an idea that came from you, Bruce, connected to our social media marketing approach, I mean, I think that, you know, it could be very, very successful. That's just me kind of sharing my thoughts, what I've been thinking about, and how we could approach this.
So let me go back to the question I was about to ask. I like the approach very much. I think this approach that you've talked about, if Chairman Mao was still alive, you know, the independence leader in China, he would approve of, Nick. Do you know what Chairman Mao used to say?
No.
He said, "Power comes out of the barrel of a gun." And the most powerful thing that 9mm can do is to establish a direct sales channel. There's nothing more powerful than that. That means all the
Yes.
convenience stores and the Walmarts of the world and others will fall in line. They're going to want
That's right.
the product because you have, you know, instead of using rifles, you know, of course, which the Communist Party of China did, you're using Creative Trend to give you a direct channel to the consumer. And that's the most powerful thing any company can do. There's no financing that you could do. There's no investment that you could take that would be more powerful than a sales channel that is succeeding. So the question I was about to ask, Nick, before you rudely interrupted me, was you know, is Creative Trend going to do the marketing plan, but also be your marketing agency? And there's a difference between a marketing plan and a marketing agency. I am not really keen on market research, and I'm just going to tell you why. When I was the founder of the Ottawa Senators, we did some market research, and we hired a very expensive company out of the United States. I'm sure you all know them, called Hill and Knowlton. Hill and Knowlton, a big PR and marketing firm. And they did a really extensive marketing survey in Ottawa and Gatineau. And they asked, if we get NHL hockey in Ottawa, would you buy a season ticket and how much would you pay? And the answer was we could sell 100,000 season tickets and they would pay anything. But there's a big difference between asking somebody if they would buy a season ticket and at what price they would pay when it's a theoretical discussion. We didn't have an NHL team then. And then actually going to see them and saying, get your wallet out. And so I'm not as keen on a marketing plan per se. We need to have a plan of some sort, but a market plan is only a very small part, I think, of a successful rollout. And the most important thing, in my opinion, is that your marketing company is also an agency, which means that when you give them $50,000 a month, Nick, what are they doing with it?
Exactly. So that's the plan I'm talking about. They would look at all of our infrastructure regarding website, landing pages, the Facebook, Instagram, you know, Twitter, whatever. And then they would come and say, okay, with 50 grand you know, we will do this to the website, we will do this to get, you know, better
Okay,
search engine optimization, and
Okay, so
this is the campaign and the influencers that will
I get
actually,
that.
we will start. Yeah.
This is really important. I want everybody to understand this, okay? Because this is the crux of developing, you know, what Chairman Mao said was the most powerful weapon, having more guns than the other guy. So it's not good enough to ask your marketing group like Creative Trend to create a beautiful website or a beautiful Facebook page. That is not what an agency does. An agency takes those beautiful things that they've done with you, beautiful logos and beautiful web pages and fantastic Facebook pages and everything else they do for you, great Instagram feed. They drive traffic there. And so the key question to ask a Creative Trend, and you know, I love John McMahon and I know the guys at Creative Trend, and I do have a lot of respect for them, Nick, but the most important question you have to ask them is not what beautiful branding they can do. That's important, but how they're going to drive traffic and sales.
That's right. That's
so,
right.
And so the things that you just said, most of the things you just said are about, you know, branding, which is great, but not about how they're going to drive traffic to the site. So if you have a great Instagram feed, fine.
Yeah.
What if nobody finds it?
But what I'd like to,
Well,
if
yes,
I could say something, I had a
go ahead,
meeting
Steve.
with, I had a little meeting with John, and what I'd like from Creative Trend, they want to build, they want to study what we want to do, and which kind of image we want to do. So they want to build a strategy with us. They want to work. John speak to me, and they want to build a strategy specifically for what we want and for what we want to reach. So before to have a contract with them, they will build a strategy with us that we agree with. So they have a different kind of. I tell them we want to work with the army, the first respondent, and this was a good idea for John. And it's kind of stuff they want to build with us. They want to know what we want, and they want to build a strategy with us.
So what you just said, Steve, it makes a lot of sense to me. And if we're going to talk to investors, Nick, and we are going to talk to investors and sponsors and strategic partners and that sort of thing, we have to be able to convince them that putting their shoulder to the wheel, getting in bed with us, giving us money, you know, that we know what we're doing. And what Steve just talked about, I think, is you know, how to not only build a brand, but how to drive traffic. So let's just imagine for the moment that every kit bag of every US and Canadian and New Zealand and United Kingdom and Australian soldier, every kit bag had 9mm in it. Okay, that's a lot of soldiers. And you could trust me if you know, those are called the Five Eyes. You guys know that those countries are called the Five Eyes, Steve?
No.
Vous comprenez? Five Eyes, les cinq E.
Thanks, you.
Cinq E, merci. The Five Eyes, it's the five big Anglo countries, right? So it's the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom. Those are the Five Eyes. They call them the Five Eyes. And they share you know, intelligence, and of course they have a military alliance and other very close connections. So if we could put a 9mm in each of their kit bags, you know, that will create tremendous buzz. And then the other thing that we've talked about, and you brought it up, Nick, is also equipping first responders with 9mm, and also you know, esports teams. So to my way of thinking, in order to build buzz for your Instagram feed, and you know, if you do a Snap channel or a beautiful Facebook page, what will really drive traffic, you know, if when you're talking to Creative Trend, I think, is these key markets that you've talked about. Once all of the esports guys, you know, these are young people, some of the best gamers in the world are, you know, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 years of age. By the time you're 25, you're aging out. You know, so those young people, they are definitely the trendsetters. And I think if we say that a lot of a marketing budget is going there, not just building a great website, but going into something like major events and also supporting you know, the first responders and our Five Eyes, you know, armies. I think, you know, armed forces, I think that would be very powerful.
I think too.
Okay, so now whether it's 1 or 2 million in round one and then a second round, let's talk about where we go for that money. I know, Nick, you've given that some thought. Do you want to just tell everybody what your thinking is?
Myself? Sorry,
Yep.
Bruce? Yeah, well, for sure that, you know, I have a few people within my network that as soon as we have a deck, I would approach for that initial round. So I got probably 2-3 people that might be interested in jumping in for that initial round. So that's kind of where I would be going.
Okay. And one of the things I asked you, Nick, and Steve as well, is to think about.
Sorry, I lost you guys.
So I lost you, Bruce.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Okay, now
Yes.
it's good.
You know, that's a really good tagline. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Do you know whose tagline that is?
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now?
Who tagged this now?
That's Verizon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's if you can get a tagline, Steve, that it becomes like a household expression, you know, like Nike's "Just Do It." Everybody says, "Yeah, hey, Steve, just do it," right?
Yeah,
And
but it's reach your target.
I love that, you know, and it will become part of the language. So reach your target is very good. Just do it. But Verizon they hit a home run with that one. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Think about how many people on Zoom right now are saying that.
Yeah.
All right.
Works.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to build. I'm going to do the slide deck, Steve. Nick, I'll do the first one anyway, and then you guys will do the second round, and then I'll do the final edit. But I think it should be a priority, Nick, once we have a proper financial structure in place. I think that is really the very first thing that we should do.
Yes, 100%.
So, you know, we talked, just so Danny knows and other people on the call know, is we talked about establishing what's called a critical path schedule. And that again comes from the US military. And we really, really need that. But the best way, I think, to get this thing off the ground would be for us to spend some time right now on the structure. What does this whole animal look like? Because it's pretty complicated, at least it is right now. And then I think we should target investor presentations. We should reserve half a day in the very near future, if you guys are okay with it. I'm talking about September. I'm not talking about next year. I'm talking about next month, where we should reserve a half a day, and we can do a Zoom call like this, if you guys are okay with that. And we'll get some investors on the call with us. We will have about a 20-minute presentation to do. It shouldn't be longer than 20 minutes. And then we'll have a conversation with investors. I do a lot of this, Nick, now, and it is the most fundamental thing that we have to do, I think.
Just so you know, Bruce, I did start on that. I know I wasn't part of the first conversation with you guys, but in talking with Steve, Nick there, they asked me to go ahead and start this. I did start the critical path presentation. I was going to send it to you guys until Steve sent me that email. Was it yesterday? With all the revised ways that we want to go forward, moving forward with the companies and all this kind of stuff that I was going to input in. So I'm there right now. I'm trying to make sense of all of it, and I will send that to you guys either tonight or tomorrow. But I will send you what I've made so far for it.
Yeah, I just put my email address in the chat box. Can you make sure that I'm included on that as well?
Yeah,
Yes.
he has your email, Bruce. He
Okay,
was
well,
CC'd
it's
in
just there
all
in
our
case
conversation. Thank you.
Oh, perfect. That's
But
good.
could you Ritchie, do you have it's an Excel spreadsheet you started?
And you know what? I was going to bring my computer this morning, and I took my donut instead, and I forgot the computer. That's why I don't have it with me here. I'm sorry, guys. I just completely, I was when I left home this morning.
Okay.
I will get that.
And there's nobody at home that could get in your computer and send it to us?
Oh, my wife is my wife is working right now.
Okay.
I will be able to get it to you guys though early enough, because I'm not going to be late leaving work today.
Okay.
That's fine. I mean, it'll come when it comes. So I think we need to, you know, make progress on the investor side, and we're going to, before we break up for the day, we're going to sort of target a half day. Everybody will reserve a half day. We're going to do some pitches. What I would like to do though is pitch, you know, some investors, and also I would like to pitch a couple of strategic partners, which is, they would be two different pitches, right? So one of the things I asked you guys about is about who the strategic partners are. And I really like the idea of the, you know, the go-to-market strategy that you talked about. One possible, you know, or possible strategic partners for 9mm could be groups that are already going to the home, like HelloFresh. If you know, do you guys know HelloFresh?
Mm-hmm.
No. Oh, Tammy says she knows it.
Okay, well, tell us about it, Tammy.
Tell us about it.
Yeah.
HelloFresh is actually it's very convenient for working families, busy families with young kids, even us on a late night. It's kind of good to have that. Yeah, there you go.
There you go. So Nick and Ritchie and Tammy and Steve, and I'm missing Danny. My wife and I are HelloFresh customers. You know, we're both pretty busy. You know, I do a bit of coaching, and my wife is doing some as well. And they're already delivering to the home, right? And they deliver really, really fine meals. But I'm not saying that it's this company, but companies that are already going to the home, if they can put into their boxes that come to the home, and we get it every week. It's a big box. It comes with fresh packed food. It's got you know, freezer bags in it, so it stays fresh. It goes into our fridge, and then you just, in 15 minutes, you put it together as a meal. And they're really good meals, by the way. Not low calorie, by the way, but they're really good. These are potential strategic partners. And before Steve and Nick, when we talked about strategic partners, we were talking about maybe Couche-Tard, or we were talking about maybe 7-Eleven. Those are strategic partners, but they're going to want their margin. So what you're talking to me about today, Nick, is a go direct to the consumer, so you have a bigger margin. Did I hear you correctly on that? Okay.
Yes.
So there are a number of people who go direct to home, and I'm not talking about DoorDash or Uber Eats. I mean, that's a little bit of a different thing. But the people who actually deliver product to the home, HelloFresh is one of those. And I think we should try and find somebody in the marketplace who could add you know, 9mm to their kit, and it goes out a case here and a case there.
That could be good. Can be good idea, yeah. I agree.
I'll show you another one. These are clients of mine. I'll show you another one if I can find them. Yeah, here it is. So think about this. When you talk to Creative Trend, Nick and Steve and everybody, when you talk to Creative Trend, I want you to talk about, you know, partners like HelloFresh, and I want you to talk about partners like Luxe Box. These are actually coaching clients of mine who deliver boxes every 3 months, so 4 times a year. They deliver boxes. Their audience is mainly female, but not entirely female, and they deliver boxes of stuff, you know, with all kinds of really cool sampled products in there. and they have about 30,000 boxes a month that they do. Sorry, every 3 months. So they're doing about 120,000 deliveries a year, and you can see it's $29 per box. So they're in the low millions in revenues. But Creative Trend will know that they're in both Canada and the United States. This idea of delivery to home, even before COVID-19 took off, or whacked our planet, Luxe Box has been doing this for at least 7 or 8 years. So these boxes that are home delivered has been a growing industry for many years, and now their growth curve went from this to this.
Yeah.
So Nick and Steve and our group here, who is going to be talking to Creative Trend? Is that something you're going to do, Steve, or is it going to be Nick?
It's Nick.
Okay. So one of the things that I would like to do is some presentations to potential investors, but some presentations to strategic partners, because they have a strategic interest in what you guys do.
Mm.
And what I have found in the past is that strategic partners are much more willing to provide support, and they ask for very little in return. Investors want, the Earth, the Moon, the Mars, and the stars. And strategic partners just want to make their existing products more successful. So often you can get a lot of help from strategic partners with very little in the way of equity. In fact, usually zero.
And what you think, Bruce, if we, in the same meaning, if we have a kind of partnership with, example, e-games, if they bought a game or if they participate in a tournament, they can receive a packaging of 9mm.
I think that's exactly right, Steve. The strategic partners that I was thinking of was, convenience stores and, Sobeys and those kinds of strategic partners for you. But the go-to consumer market direct, it's a different group of strategic partners. The esports business is really big. And it's growing even faster. Something I didn't know until I started coaching HUD Studios based in BC in Vancouver is just how big esports is, not just the gaming world, but also how many universities and colleges have now got esports programs. And I was talking to Andrew McLaren, who's the founder of HUD Studios, and he told me that I said, they have esports programs? I mean, you get to play video games? He said, no, Bruce, it's the engineering faculties who are developing, or information technology people who are developing these games. So the programs are based on coding, and that made a lot more sense to me. But those guys as well are tremendous strategic partners. So I think if we could get, some esports businesses, game creators, universities and colleges, together with the people who are already going direct to the home in Canada, the United States with their boxes, and there's probably 1,001 of those. That would I think you would get some very strong partners there who have real muscle and money.
It's crazy since you talked to us about esports before, because before we talk about this, I was not very I was not knowing a lot of stuff about them, but we was to Reunion Island, and even there people talk to us about this. And since you talked to us about this, I feel every week someone talk to me about esports.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well,
crazy.
my kids are right in the age group where they play esports in a big way. And so, and I used to be a gamer too when I was a lot younger, and it's grown huge since then. It's much bigger than the film industry, Steve.
Oh yeah.
Much bigger. So, like, I think Hollywood box office is maybe $8 billion a year, whereas esports is in the hundreds of billions.
Yeah, I will not surprise if in the future we saw even cinema places present esports tournament.
Oh, absolutely, for sure, absolutely. It's going to happen. It's probably already happened. So I like the direction we're going in. Okay, so now let's talk about the structure. And maybe, I don't know who wants to talk about the structure, because there's so many different companies. There's 9mm Canada, 9mm holding company in the United States. There's 9mm International. There's all kinds of shareholders on this call, and maybe there's others I don't know about. So who wants to try and sort the bowl of spaghetti?
Go, Nick.
You want me to go? Okay, perfect. Okay, so right now, this is why I sent you, because we had different calls with tax lawyers and also international business development lawyers in the past 10 days. Right now, Bruce, there is only one company that exists. It's called 9mm International SAS. It's a French company. And the reason why is because there was another shareholder that came that came into 9mm a few years ago, and finally things didn't really work out. So Steve and Maxime. So Maxime has been the initial investor behind Steve since Steve bought the company. They decided to buy him out. So one of the reasons that it was in France, it's because this guy thought that with all of his knowledge regarding accounting and legal knowledge, he wanted to take care of that portion of the business. While talking to tax lawyers and talking to, the 9mm, his name is Cyril, who is also in French, even if he is from France, he said this was one of probably the worst business decision. He had advised them not to go in that direction, but again, because of the other partner, it was decided to. So now we believe that the best thing to do, we have to take in consideration here that we want to respect, and we want to make sure that the Maxime family feel in security in regards to their investment. They've invested over 1 million euros so far. The value of the business right now is in the trademarks and the protection that we have in 80 countries. So the goal would be that the Canadian partners that are here on this phone, we would create a company in Canada that would be called, as an example, 9mm Canada. The breakdown of the shares will be discussed shortly. Steve will get back to us. That company would own 40% in the 9mm holding company in Delaware, and all of the trademarks and the protection from the SAS in France would be transferred to that holding company. That holding company, the only thing
Hold on,
it's not an
so why would you not transfer them to 9mm Canada?
Because tax purposes. It's a lot cheaper in Delaware, and it is also a great state for trademarks and so on and so forth. So all the recommendation of all of the lawyers and tax lawyers is directing us towards Delaware.
Okay.
So we'll open a holding company. It's not an operational company. The only thing that company will have is the trademark and the protection of 9mm. Okay, with an office in Miami. That's where our lawyer in France is a partner in a legal firm in Miami. So that's going to be the address for now. Now we're going to be giving Maxime's family 51%, so they feel secure in regards to their investment with the value of the trademark and the protection.
So
the Canadian,
the Maxime family is going to own 51% of the Delaware company.
Of the holding, 9mm holding, yes.
That's the Delaware company.
Yes.
Why give them control of Delaware?
Well, the only thing they're gonna have control of is the trademarks and the protection, because we're gonna create another company in Delaware that's gonna be called, could change, but 9mm International. This will be the operational and business development company. And that company is gonna have an exclusivity of all international development for 9mm holding, and will also be the company that's going to sign all of the agreements with the manufacturer. We'll have the rights to sign all of the agreements with the manufacturing facilities and the distributor internationally, and will also be the initial distributor for the US regarding the online strategy that we've been discussing. In that company, 9mm Canada will probably own 80%.
Say that again. I missed that last bit.
In that 9mm International, the 9mm Canada will own 80%, and Maximin's family will own 20%.
The reason, Bruce, why we give a 51% on the holding, the trademark, because at now today the value of the 9mm, it's the trademark and the protection. So, and Maximin and his family put almost 90% of all the money for that. So it's kind of protection for them because it's the biggest value of the company now. If we sell tomorrow, the value it's based on the trademark and the protection.
Okay.
So that's why 51% on this company who gonna hold the trademark. And like Nick explained, the after we're gonna own the Canada 9mm is gonna own 80% of the other company, which is the company who gonna make the
and the real value, Bruce, in long term, if we take care of our responsibility of developing the company, will not be 9mm holding and the trademark and the protection. It's going to be all of the contract that we have with manufacturer and distributors in place with 9mm International, and all of development and all of the monies, all of the financials that will be coming into that corporation. But for now, it's at least giving the protection that they want, because Steve believed in the vision that Steve had since the beginning, and they've put the money out.
Okay. I get that. That makes sense. All right. I see it. I'm just trying to figure it out. It's pretty complicated. All right. So the 9mm Canada is going to be this group owning it, correct?
Yeah. The
And
4 of us, 5 of us with
I think
Tammy, but
we got Ritchie, Danny, Steve, Nick, and Tammy. We got 5 people on the call.
it will be 4 because it will be one name. It will be Danny's
Okay.
name or Danny.
Of course, that's up to you guys. So you've got 4. So we got 9mm Canada, and we've got Steve, we've got Nick, we've got Ritchie, and we've got Danny. All right, so we got 4 shareholders, and so we got 4 shareholders. And who is going to control this company?
Steve.
Who's the president of the company? Who's the chief executive officer?
It will be me.
So you're the president and CEO?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just call you Mr. President from now on. All right, so the president.
Sorry, Bruce. Sometimes I have a delay. That's why I answer a little bit.
No, it's fine. I understand. So president and CEO is Steve. Nick, what is your position?
I'm the Steve. We have a nickname where it's
He's
more of the Go ahead, Steve.
But we don't give for now. We don't, because what you need to know, Bruce, we change. I think it's a nightmare story about the structure since the beginning. So we changed 3 times. So,
but what I'm trying to do is just get a sense of where we're going with this,
yeah.
And then we're going to talk about money again. But okay, so we're going to just say for now, president and CEO Steve Clavette.
Yeah.
Nick, I've given you a title. I wrote it down here. I'm going to call you the chief visionary.
Visionary.
Because that's you.
Yep.
Nick flies over the earth around 3,000 feet and occasionally touches down. That's him. I've known him for a long time now, so I know you guys know what I'm talking about. So our chief, and I mean it, I'm going to call you the chief visionary. Ritchie, what is your role?
That's a good one. I have no idea.
Are you the finance guy?
probably the two.
Ritchie will be more the guy who's gonna watch. He's gonna have eyes on the critical path and be sure
But
that.
there's
Operational,
so that's the
right, Richie?
chief operating officer.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to call Ritchie the chief operating officer just for now. Okay, Steve?
Yeah, don't worry. It's good.
And then Danny, what's your position in all this?
I'll be the collector.
What do you mean by that? I mean, Danny, in all seriousness, what do you think your role is?
I don't know what.
Danny is the kind of guy he's a guy on the field, you know. So to example here for logistic example, if we have we need to. Danny is a guy who I don't know how to explain in English. Nick, c'est un gars qui est sur le terrain. Il va s'occuper s'il y a des distributions, des choses, l'entrepôt. How you say
Logistics, Bruce. Deal with the 3PL, manufacturing facility, the whole shebang, logistics.
Okay. Logistics. What's the word for logistics en français?
Logistique.
Yeah, I thought so. It's almost the same.
Yeah.
So logistics, that is Danny. These are very important roles. So we've got the president and CEO, the chief visionary, the chief operating officer, and logistics. Those are great. Who is going to be responsible as your chief financial officer?
For now, it's going to be a third party.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's going to probably, we'll talk, but will probably be my accountant for now in Quebec, Canada.
What's his name?
And we might see, or his name is Luxe Box.
How do you spell his last name?
SARAZZIN.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So the reason I ask you this is when we're doing a presentation to investors, these are the things that they'll ask, right? Like, what are you doing with our money? Like, who's responsible for the financial statements of this company? Who's responsible for logistics? So the reason I'm asking these detailed questions is I need to know it if I'm going to help you guys push the ball up the hill and over the other side. All right. So just bear with me. And I know it's a little bit boring, but I need to understand it. Now, have you established who owns what percent of this company?
In the Canada's one?
We're just talking Canada now.
We because we just changed the idea this week, so we need to discuss about this week.
Are you willing to discuss it now, or do you want to do that another time?
Because the thing is, if we change, because normally I got 25% at the SRS in France, who detains the trademark. But now if we change, it will be, in the United States, it will be 51% Max Manny's family. Yep. But I'm not gonna have any more 25% because I'm gonna be part of the Canada's 9mm with 40%. So this we need to calculate and see how it's gonna change the.
But if I understood you right, sorry, if I understood you right, Steve, there's a second company in the United States, which I think the Canada company is going to own 80% of that, and the Maxime family is going to own 20% of that. And it's that company that probably will be the most important company because it's going to control distribution in the United States.
Yeah.
So the Canada company, which is you four guys, has 80% of the second Delaware company. C'est ça?
Yep.
Okay. So the ownership of this Canada company is very important. Who owns what?
Exactly.
So do you guys want to talk about it with me, or do you feel uncomfortable doing that?
No, I'm not uncomfortable. It's just we need to discuss together, determine, need to calculate. I don't know. I don't know if it's the right time to do this, but.
Nick, you're the chief visionary. You always have an idea. What is your idea on this? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm just trying we're trying to move the ball forward.
Yeah. So I think that the calculation that needs to be done is that if we go back, and then Bruce, that might be confusing for you. But another structure that we had talked about previously that's not going to happen now, that's the structure we're moving after speaking with the lawyers, would be that at that time we were going to create one company called 9mm Americas, and in that company is very similar to the one that will open in the US. Maxime would have owned 20, it would have been a Canadian company. That was another structure we talked about. So Maxime would have owned 20%, and then I-15, Ritchie 15, Steve 25, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Tammy and sorry guys, just there's a call coming at the same time.
No, I think me it was 20 and 30, 30 Danny.
30 Danny.
So I'm hearing 25% Steve, 15% Nick, 15% Ritchie, and 30% Danny?
Yeah. But no, it was 30% Danny, 20 me, 15 Ritchie, 15 Nick, and 20 family oral maximum. But this was calculated considering I got 25% in the main company.
Yeah, but I think we have to try and keep things really simple, because at least in my experience, Nick, when we talk to investors, if I were to show investors a bowl of spaghetti, you know, with corporations that look like this, here's what a typical investor does. He runs out of the room screaming, saying, "Don't ever call me again." I don't want to do that, because I think I'll blow it for you guys if I do that. Do you understand where I'm coming from, Steve?
Of course, that's why we work on it now.
Yeah. So it's called KISS, right? Keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not simple. And so I want to come back to the Canada company. Danny, you're on the call here with us. Do you have a number in mind? I'm talking about the Canada company now. Do you have a number in mind for yourself?
Who?
Me?
Danny.
If I have a number, you mean percentage?
Yes, because you had 30%, I think, of the Americas company. What of the Canada company? What would that percentage be?
Oh, that's where, you know, because of everything that happened in the last week with the lawyers, that's where we're not sure about the shares right now at this moment, right? Because we had to change the structure of the company. So because we changed the structure of the company and the lawyers are in it right now, we haven't determined the percentage that we're gonna end up with once we have all this company settled and everything open.
So
we haven't figured it out, so I can't be sure, and that final decision ends up being Steve's.
So
Bruce.
Yeah.
Bruce?
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand the importance of that. I think that for now, at least when we present to an investor, we can show that in the companies, in the two companies, in the 9mm International, there's actually two shareholders. There's a Canadian company and there's a French company that owns 80-20. Let's them have a discussion, and let's get back to you in a matter of a few days.
Okay.
With what's going to be the percentage in Canada.
All right. Okay. But I am going to say to you, I have no axe to grind here. I don't favor one person over another. I've known Nick for a long time, but this is a group I'm coaching, and I'm happy to be involved with you guys. But I think Steve should own more than 20%, and he is the president and CEO. And the other thing that I would ask you to think about, first of all, is to be fair to your president and CEO. And second of all, you four need to think about having a voting agreement. Now, this is just my recommendation. You don't have to do anything. Oh, Danny, just because you came later, I should let you know we are recording this call. And just so you know, so if you want to tell us any trade secrets, you're welcome to do so, but it will be private. What I do after the call is over, I download this Zoom video, which is usually pretty good, actually. It goes to my computer, then I upload it to YouTube, and it's unlisted. So only the people with the link can see it. So only the 4 or 5 of us will be able to see it, but you will be able to refer back to this. So what I would suggest you do is you consider that your CEO and president usually has, you know, a significant shareholding, not out of scale, but he should be treated fairly, I think. That's number one. And then the number 2 I would ask you to think about, Nick, is establishing a voting trust. The thing that kills most startups fastest is that you've got 4 or 5 partners now, including Tammy, who get along, they like each other, etc. But there are some tough times ahead, guaranteed. There are going to be some difficulties ahead, guaranteed. All of us believe in the mission. I believe in it too. So one of the things I recommend when I have 4 or 5 shareholders is that they get together, they decide who owns what, and they give one of those 5 people for the first 5 years a voting trust. So that, I'm not saying you should give it to Steve, but if you gave it to Steve, it means that if there's a disagreement amongst the 4 of you in the next 5 years, it goes to Steve to make that decision. He can, you know, let's say Steve ended up with 30% or 35%, and Nick ended up with 15%, and Ritchie with 15%, and Danny with 25%. I have no idea. Whatever the numbers turn out to be, or something different than that. The other partner should, in fact, in my view, give a voting trust to one individual, so there's one controlling mind. And if you get into a dispute and you can't decide what to do, you know, Ritchie wants to go one way and Nick another way, and maybe Danny and Tammy another way. Steve, if he's the guy that you decide to give the trust to, he can break that deadlock for the next 5 years. After that, you know, if you get through 5 years and you're selling 100 million cases a month, I'm not worried about that. You guys will figure it out. But I would strongly recommend you consider that.
Yeah.
I totally agree, Bruce. And I think that at the level of the directors of the company, because you got to shareholder the directors, right? As an example, there's 4 directors. So the way that I would recommend that we approach it is that when we're voting on something, everybody adds a quarter of the vote, so 25% each. So we need at least 3 people to say yes. But you, Steve, would have what Bruce, what I called a veto right, or what Bruce just called it, is that you at any time have the right to come in and decide that, let's say you're the 4th one, and me and Ritchie and Dan, you know, we think a certain direction, and you're the 4th one that thinks a different direction, you should have a veto vote. That's not something you want to, you know, anybody or president or CEO want to pull at any time, but if it's something that you feel it's critical, that's going to kill the business, you could pull out your veto vote and say, no, that's the direction we're going. And I think that's fair, because you're the one with the vision since the beginning, and that has invested and sacrificed a lot in this company.
Agreed. It's a little bit different than that, Nick, but you're on the right track. So you all these decisions go to your board of directors, absolutely, and the board of directors makes a decision. Life is good. But if there's a stalemate at the board of directors level, or the person with the voting trust is not happy with the decision, then what he can do is he refers that to the shareholders, and the shareholders have given him a voting trust. So that ultimately, I mean, this is, lawyers will figure this out. They know how to do this. And certainly if they don't, I could tell them how to do it. It means that hopefully this doesn't happen in the next 5 years. The board of directors makes good decisions. Everything's, you know, perfectly hunky-dory. But if there's a dispute, it goes to the shareholders, but the shareholders have a voting trust. It goes into Steve's name. He makes the final decision. That's it. And however you structure it, that will really help your company, because the thing that happens to a lot of startups is they start to fight and they start to disagree. But if they know going in, and you know, I'll give you an example. I have 4 engineers that started a company called Grade A Techs about 15 years ago now. And we did exactly that. I asked them, they were former students of mine actually. I created a voting trust. That company is doing about $120 or $130 million a year in volume now. It's very successful. It's made all 4 of the founders wealthy. But there were occasions in those first 5 years when Matt LaFrance, who was the president of the company, when Matt LaFrance had to break the deadlock and make a decision, and it's fast. So that's what I would strongly recommend. But you have that discussion amongst the 4 of you or 5 of you, okay, guys? All right. Now the next question I have for you is, let's say,
Bruce, just one sec. Just the term that you've used again. It's
a voting trust.
Okay, thank you.
Voting trust. It means that let's say you all had 25%, just to make it easy. So everybody has 25% of the shares. It means you have 25% of the votes. But you, Nick, and Ritchie and Dan have assigned your voting rights to Steve for 5 years. It means he just votes your shares. So it means he has ultimate control of this company for 5 years, not forever, just for the first 5 years. And if you're selling 100 million cases a month or whatever it turns out to be, the structure that you will be looking at in 5 years will be different. But we don't have to worry about that. We have to worry about the first 5 years. Okay, guys?
Yep.
All right. So the next,
Bruce, just to make a parenthesis on how it was decided the parts before in America. So nobody asked nothing. It was me who offered to Nick, Ritchie, and Danny. It was only me who offered them the parts. So nobody asked nothing. And me, I like what you just said. Me, what is really important on this project is the vision. So I feel responsible to protect the vision on this. But the people who know me, they know I believe what I said. If someone's make more money than me in the company, it can be Ritchie, Nick, Danny. I have no problem with this.
I understand that.
Vision to protect the vision.
I understand that, Steve. I do understand that, but because I've gotten to know you a little bit, but I don't agree with you.
I know nobody.
I understand it because what I want to make sure, and what I'm asking basically Nick and Ritchie and Dan and Tammy to do, is to treat you fairly, because I have a young designer who works for me. I do quite a bit of real estate work, and his name is Dustin Poole. And Steve, the only argument I have with Dustin, he's an architect, or actually an architectural technologist, very, very good designer, young man, very nice young man. The only arguments I have with Dustin is when he sends me a bill, I tell him it's too low. It's true. And I always give him more money than he asks for because he charges me ridiculously low fees, too low. And he's like you, Steve, he's other directed, he should have been a priest or a minister rather than an architectural technologist. So I'm just asking the other people on this call to treat you fairly, because I do recognize that you may not necessarily be directed by money, but money does matter. In the end, it will matter, in my opinion. All right, so the next question I have for you is, let's say we raise $2 million in round one. Which company is that going into?
Go, Nick.
You want me to go, Steve? That money would be going into 9mm International.
Why not 9mm Canada?
Because I believe that if I put myself in the shoes of an investor, I wouldn't want to be part of 9mm Canada. I would want to own a piece of preferred share with probably no controlling, no voting, no controlling in the two companies. So I believe that any investor, if they don't, I think they're crazy, would ask, and I think that's how we need to build our investment presentation, is that if they invest X amount of money, they have a portion in the 9mm holding, and that as the value right now because of the trademark and the protection, and they have also a portion in the 9mm International.
And who owns 9mm International right now?
9mm International will be 80% 9mm Canada, and will be 20% Maxime's family.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So 9mm International, 80% owned by 9mm Canada, 20% owned by Maxime family. All right.
Yes.
What would you consider the fair market value of 9mm International today?
What
would be the value of this company
What's
today?
the value of the company today, Steve?
Yep.
It's now it's hard to give a value because the
You have to pick a number, Steve. You just pick a number. They go like this. Literally.
5 million.
Danny says,
Did Danny say 5 million?
yeah.
I'm gonna.
I say 10.
Well, what we're gonna say is we're gonna say it's worth 7.5 million right now. We're just picking a number. All right. That's because it. If I got it right, I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but it will own the intellectual property, correct?
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, so we're saying basically the intellectual property of this company is worth $7.5 million, and we're talking US dollars, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we're talking $7.5 million US dollars, and we're going to raise 2 million. Okay, we're just saying. Okay, so we're going to raise 2 million US dollars of investor money is going to come into 9mm International, which has a current value of $7.5 million US dollars. So if we bring that in as equity, whether it's preferred shares or common shares, I think you're right, Nick, it's going to be pref shares. It means that, so 9mm International issues preferred shares to the investors. Investors put 2 million into it. So after this transaction is done, this company now has a fair market value of 9.5 million. Just simply 7.5 plus 2 million makes 9.5 million. So in theory, these guys would own 2 million divided by 9.5. They would own 21.05%.
We could make it 8 plus 2, Bruce. It'd just make easy number, right? 8 plus 2 would be 10.
All right, you're
That
killing
means
me.
they would own 20%.
All right, okay, I'm changing my numbers. You're killing me. You make me do extra work. I'm going to charge you double. Okay, so they would own 20%, and you guys would be diluted. Do you understand what I mean by diluted, boys? Steve?
What?
Yep.
Yeah.
You would be diluted.
Okay.
So 80%, Canada would own 80%, but afterwards it would be about 75% or a little bit less than that. Vous comprenez?
Yes.
You're diluted. Okay. Now, let me ask you this question, Nick. Are you still there, Nick? You're making me
Yeah.
seasick.
Yeah, no, I
You
need my
know,
charger because my phone's gonna die. So
Okay, you better plug yourself in. I always thought Nick was Frankenstein. He could just use his own electrodes. You're such a magnetic personality, Nick. All right, so Nick, can you hear me okay? I'm really getting seasick.
yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Oh, look, Ritchie's
I'm
doing
just-
it now too. All right. So Nick, a lot of investors would prefer to put some of their money in terms of shares and some of it as a loan to the company.
Yes.
And it's just Steve and Danny and Ritchie. The reason for that is investors like to get some of their money back, right? And when you're involved in a strict equity play, until you guys sell this business to a bigger company, maybe one day Monster or Red Bull, or for all I know, Coca-Cola comes along, knocks on your door, says, we want to buy you, right? And we'll give you, $500 million for this company. And then everybody exits, okay? But often investors will prefer something that's part equity and part debt. So that they would say, look, I've got 2 million I'll put into this company, or our group will put into this company. Some of it will be for equity because we're hoping that you will exit at, $500 million valuation. But some of it might be debt as well. So would you consider maybe structuring it $1 million for preferred shares and $1 million of debt, Nick?
Yeah, I think, Bruce, that's been what you've been teaching me for a long time. I think that would make a lot of sense in the long run.
So
My question to you is, if we're speaking to investor in September and, you know, we're just starting Reunion Island right now, there's not really any cash flow that has started coming in, would most of the investor feel insecure in the fact that how can we pay the interest, or we have no track record of revenue at this point?
Yeah, okay, so let me just finish. So what we do, and you know, I do a lot of this kind of work. What we do is they put some of their money into the company as debt, and they have typically they have an interest coupon of 6 or 8%, but that is capitalized for 5 years. Steve, do you understand that concept?
Okay.
Yes. Just try to put more volume.
So just when you mean capitalize, Bruce, does that mean you make a payment every month, or that just?
No.
No, the opposite of that, Ritchie. So let's say they put in $1 million. It's a coupon. It's a debt instrument, and it's invested at, say, a 6%. And we do it on a non-compounded basis, okay? Because otherwise it could get really expensive. So every year on $1 million, the company owes $60,000 in interest, but you don't pay that. It just gets added to the principal. So $60,000 of interest gets added to the principal every year. So at the end of 5 years, when it matures, the company owes $1 million plus another $300,000. Okay, so you do have to pay it, but you don't pay it until the end. And if
Bruce, how much? Sorry to cut you. We could do the calculation, but quickly, I would. There's probably tools online, right? Because I know that compound is also something very sexy for investors. I was just wondering how much would it represent?
I would strongly recommend against that. It just, you know,
Okay.
You know what Einstein said once, Nick? He actually gave a press conference and he said he was going to disclose the most powerful force in the universe. And everybody thought he's found something even more powerful than nuclear fission or fusion, right? Something even more exotic. And it was just a joke. He said the most powerful force in the universe is compound interest. And it can ruin a company. It can just escape. It can run away on you. So investors, I've done lots of this. You're going to capitalize it. They're investing because they want their money back and they want some interest, Nick. But the other thing is that the equity side, if you exit, you know, if they own, say, 10% of this company, as an example, and you exit at $500 million valuation or $1 billion valuation, look at how much money they make on the equity side.
Yeah, they just made 50 million.
Yeah, they make that's, and if you exit at $1 billion, I mean, these valuations today are crazy. Did you guys see that Apple went over 2 trillion?
Wow.
Steve, did you see that? Apple's capitalization today is over $2 trillion. I never thought I would live to see a company worth $1 trillion. I didn't think I would see that. And then Apple did that, and then they doubled in value again. They're now at $2 trillion. So the valuation, for all we know, if you're selling 100 million cases a month, your valuation could easily be at 1 or 2 billion. So I think what we would do, Nick, is 50% would go in debt. So $1 million US in debt would go to the company, and $1 million in equity. So they would own, we had an $8 million valuation, it wouldn't be a round number anymore, sorry about that, but they would own 1/9 of the company. So 1 divided by 9, it's 11.1%. And that's a good number, 11.1%. I do a lot of these kinds of things, and I see that number all the time. The reason 11.1% is important is that if it's below 10%, guys, I think this applies to Delaware companies, and I know it applies to Canada companies. If it's under 10%, there's something called the squeeze out provision. It means, let's say I owned 5% in your company, and I'm not asking for that, but say I'm definitely not asking for that, but say I did, and you said, well, we really want to get rid of Bruce, you have the absolute right to buy me up. I cannot say no to that. But if I own 10% or more, You cannot squeeze me out. It's en anglais, it's squeeze me out. So you would have a couple of provisions to protect them. One, they're over 10%, so they can't be squeezed out.
And also, Bruce, on the fiscal side, as soon as you need to own at least 3.1% to be able to receive dividends and not be taxed, double taxed.
I think
so
that's
it's
right.
helping them on not being squeezed.
Yeah, I had forgotten that, Nick. Thanks for pointing it out. So there's no squeeze out provision. And the other thing that you would put in there, it's just standard, is that if there is a buyout of the company, you know, for 500 million or a billion or 2 billion, whatever it might be, that it's called a tag along provision. It means that somebody can't make an offer for 51% of the shares and forget about the minority shareholders. If there's an offer for you know, a controlling interest in the company, it means that it triggers the same offer for everyone. That's really important for everybody. So Nick, if you own 15 or 20% of this company, you're going to want that in there too. It's called tag along. Everybody will want that. Even Steve, if he's below 51%, would want that. But certainly your outside investor. So I think we now have an idea of how to structure this. We'll ask for $2 million, $1 million in equity, in preferred shares, $1 million in debt, 6 or 8%. I'll think that through a little bit more, capitalized for 5 years. And I think that would be round one.
I'm watching the room.
Okay, I think I got it. Ritchie, did you want to ask anything else?
After the 5 years, that they're no longer part of the company, or does that mean that still own the 11.5% of the company?
The 11.1% is a permanent.
The investors.
It's permanent. You know, so that 11.1% is going to be there, you know, until the company is sold, or maybe you do an initial public offering or whatever. So the 11.1%, that's theirs. You don't. It's not on. It's not like on a string. You know, it's not like who moved my cheese. Okay, you're not allowed to move his cheese away. But the $1 million of debt has to be repaid after you know 5 years.
So my question, I have two questions. Number one, when it comes time, like you're talking about a second phase for like 10 million, till 10 to 13. So does that mean that because they're investing more, the percentage that we're going to give them is going to be more, or do we give the same percentage? And that would make a big difference, because if you compare the two, and if you compare the percentages one to the other, then it diminishes a lot on the percentages.
Absolutely.
That's my first.
So let's deal with that question. That's a good question. I think Nick was right. We should do it in 2 rounds. And the reason I like it is for a couple of reasons, but the second round, Ritchie, would be a different valuation. By the time we get to round 2, I'm hoping that you'll have sales. I'm sure you will, and significant sales. And so the second round, you might bring in $10 million, and you might give up, for $10 million, you might give up another 11.1% of the company. Not for $1 million, but for $10 million. So we're trying to push the share price up. Okay. And so you with every round, you know, I helped a little bit with Shopify's first venture round when we did the deal with Bessemer Ventures out of Boston and New York. And the valuation that we got was really good, but the second round was extraordinary. I mean, the valuations went through the roof. I mean, Shopify is the real deal now. I think that the shares are trading at like $600, but when we started, they were at like 10 cents.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense.
So if you guys can go from 10 cents to $600, that's a hell of a ride. Well, there's a lot of there's quite a few Shopify billionaires in this town.
Yeah.
I mean, there's quite a few. I mean, there's 8 or 10 of them that are billionaires now.
Oh, really? Wow.
You know, that's great for Ottawa. I wish we had more like that.
Heck yeah.
So for you, Ritchie, to make it simple, is that if now with that $2 million investment brings the value to 10 mil of 9 millimeters, and we're able in a matter of 18, 24 months or even 12 to maybe 18 months turn around, and with the sales and everything, now we say, okay, the value is the value is 100 million.
Oh, no, the value would be 100 million, Nick. We're going to try between round 1 and round 2, we're going to try it for a 10x. Okay, Ritchie, that's the goal. Round 2 would be 10x. And if we can get, if we can go from a 10 million valuation to 100 million, and frankly, the 100 million valuation is probably going to be more justified. I mean, the 10 million valuation we just pulled out of the sky, but for round 2, which again, I commend you, Nick, for that. You'll have sales and you'll have, hopefully a sales curve that's doing this.
Yeah.
Just to be sure I understand well, Nicolas, I'm just going to ask in French, Nicolas, just to be sure I understand well. Nicolas, ce qu'on veut dire, la première round qui aurait un investissement de 2 millions, le but, c'est de grimper la valeur pour que le deuxième round, s'il y a un 10 millions qui arrive, qui ne compare pas son 10 millions aux 2 millions dans le fond, parce que la valeur sera beaucoup plus grande avec l'investissement de 10 millions que quand le 2 millions a été fait, c'est ça?
Ouais, mais c'est qu'avec le 2 millions, qu'est-ce qui va arriver, c'est qu'avec le 2 millions, là, on va pousser le développement de la compagnie. Ça, là, on est rendu qu'on vend, je ne sais pas, une couple de millions de cannes aux États-Unis. On a l'île de la Réunion. On a 2 autres contrats qui ont été signés. Ça, là, la compagnie vaut beaucoup plus d'argent. Là, avec les projections des 3 prochaines années, avec le cash flow qui rentre, etc. Le but, ce serait de dire, ben là, notre compagnie vaut plus de 10 millions. Notre compagnie en vaut 50 ou 80 ou etc. Tu comprends?
Donc, le 10 millions, il ne peut pas le comparer significativement aux 2 millions parce que c'est d'éviter ce jeu-là.
Non, il compare 100 millions que la compagnie vaut.
Le 2 millions de $2 million, le 2 millions nous aide à créer de la valeur en créant du développement dans l'entreprise, un buzz, etc. pour augmenter la valeur.
OK, I understand.
Oh, okay, a couple other things that I'd like to add to the slide deck. I need some more sex appeal. It's very important. I mean it. I don't mean girls. I meant, I need some more differentiated value.
Bruce, I have one more question concerning that. For me, so the investors, I'm sure you've heard of that, just temporary investments. Example, like they own shares for, let's say 10, 15% for a certain amount of time, then they are removed from, is that something that would be viable for us, or is that not appealing enough for investors?
Nick, can you answer that?
Yeah, I would say not appealing enough. This is why Bruce, the way that he approached it, is giving them the cheese and interest on their money, right? So it's giving them both. So there's people that will say, no, I'm going to give 20% of the company and just give me, $2 million. But instead, then we're playing with 2 different approach that makes it a lot more appealing to investors.
The other thing,
very rarely in initial rounds, you will have people that wants to come in just with bridge. That's more when you get to a certain point where you're able to go see a bank, right? But that's not where we're at right now. Now it's more personal, investors that will be coming in, and for them, they need to have a piece of the cake.
And what you want to do is you want to be like the 3 musketeers, one for all and all for one. You want to treat your investors as if they were your just one of you. So there's not 2 classes of people, the highborn and the lowborn, the king and the serfs,
Yeah.
I think you want to treat them, in fact, I think, Ritchie, you want to treat your investors at least as well as you treat yourself.
Okay.
It's kind of like the golden rule. You know what the golden rule is, right, Nick?
Yes. Treat others as you want to be treated.
Yeah, there's another a golden rule that the VCs use. He or she who has the gold rules.
What?
Can you say that en français pour Steve?
Celui qui a l'or.
Celui qui a l'or dans le... Excuse, vas-y, Ritchie.
Celui qui a l'or.
Celui qui a l'or fait les
Verbe.
The golden rule that we learned as little boys was treat others as you would treat yourself, and that is correct. But these guys that I deal with in New York, in Toronto, and Shanghai, and London, they have a different golden rule. He or she who has the gold rules. All right. But I prefer the first one that was in the Bible and not the second one. But anyway, so Ritchie, any other questions?
No, it's I just know that we have some possible investors that they just want a return on their investment, which is something that we should look into. Like, I mean, I like the idea of and I'm all for whatever we choose to do. I do think that if we can at least, even if we treat them well, give them a piece of the pie without giving them a permanent piece of the pie would probably be my first suggestion when it comes to that. But, you know, I'm just,
well, there's nothing
I'm just
that says
right now.
We could have two offers. We could have a debt offer, and we could have a debt and equity offer. We can do both.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a debt offer is simply, is very simple. A typical debt offer, Ritchie, would be a little bit of a higher coupon, 8% instead of, say, 6%. But you can offer them a bonus based on share price. So they don't own they don't own 1% of the company. They don't own 0.1%. So let me think that through, Ritchie, that we could say, look, you can put some money in, you get a little bit of interest, and you get some equity. Or you put some money in as debt, a little bit of higher interest, again, capitalized, because you can't pay interest in the first 5 years, capitalized. But if we go public or we sell, you get a bonus based on share price. And they never own any part of your company. That works too. So I'll work on both of those, and I'll give you the choices. Okay, you guys are I'm just coaching here, but I'll give you the menu, and you order from the menu.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, no, I think just by doing it this way, or you know, to those who would like it this way, at least we're diminishing the amount of shares given out.
Yeah, no, I completely get it. I like it, and it means that they still participate in the upside of the company, you know, and that's fine. I get it, and I like it, and I'll do both. All right.
Me, what I'd like, Bruce, it's the good thing is to know all the options, because when you talk, we can discern which kind of approach we can take to the people.
Yeah, I like it. We'll give them options. You know, we don't want to give them 20 different options. There's way too many, but 2 is fine. We can do that. No problem. All right, I'll work on that, Ritchie. All right, I have
and Bruce, question for you, just quick question. Their protection with option 1 and option 2. Let's say the option 2, okay, they own 11.1%, but after 5 years, something happened. As an example, we don't have all the cash flow to repay the $1 million and the $300,000 of interest. Then that amount could be flipped in shares in the company at a certain agreed price.
Yeah, huh? You could put that in there, but unless they insisted on it, I would strongly recommend against that. Because Ritchie's point is well taken, that, you know, when you think about it, there are only 10 10s in 100. Last time I checked, 10 times 10 is 100. And every time you give out 11.1%, you only got like 9 of those to give out. Right?
I get that.
So that's not very many. You know, 9 is this, right? And you give out 1, you've got 8, and then another one, and pretty soon you guys own 1% of the company.
I'm just asking that. Sorry,
Ritchie, we went through that exact same discussion at Shopify, and what I did in the early rounds with Bessemer Ventures is I structured 3/4 of Bessemer Ventures investment in Shopify as debt. Because Bessemer Ventures wanted 30% of Shopify for that first round. And, you know, I'm just coaching. I said, no, most of your money is coming in debt. And so we got them down to 11.1%. Now that 11.1%, by the way, for which they paid $8 million US for that, for 11.1%. 11.1% was $8 million US. That today is worth about $3 billion. So they went from 8 million US to about 3 billion, maybe $3.5 billion. So it's a pretty good investment. So you don't want to give up too many. Ritchie's right. You don't want to give up too much of that. So don't worry about the 5 years is such a long time, Nick. 5 years from now, if you have to pay them out, you might bring in some new shareholders, or you bring in some mezzanine debt. Maybe by that time you're bankable, you go to the bank. That I wouldn't worry about. I'm going to worry about the first 5 years. Anything after that is way too far down the road.
I'm just kind of putting my ad on the other side. If I'm an investor, I'm gonna, from my experience, they will ask me, well, what's my protection on that $1 million, right? Sure. If you don't pay me back, what's my protection? Do I get protection with shares or?
Their lawyers are going to have all kinds of questions, but the initial presentation, it's like, let's say the five of us were playing poker, and I say, hey Nick, before I bet, can you show me your cards? So we don't want to bet against ourselves. We want to say this is the deal, and then let them come back to us and try and improve it for them. I'm not here to coach them. I'm here to coach you guys. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I have a last quick question. I'm sorry.
I don't believe you. It's the second last quick question.
As part of the presentation, to be able to show value of their investment, there's going to need to be a little bit of research on other energy drinks, right? And what's been the value and so on. So when there's a lot of.
That's a very good point, and that's something that I'm not going to do. It's something that I'm going to ask you guys to do. Probably Steve, you can do that, or maybe Ritchie. But I need you guys to do that. Steve, you know the industry better than I do, much better. So can you just give us some? I mean, you could just go online and you can find out what the capitalized value of Monster is. You can find out what Red Bull's worth, right?
The recent example we have, it's Rockstar. Pepsi just bought Rockstar 3.8 billion, 3.8 billion. So the deal, it's the last deal, the last big deal with energy drink just made in the United States. So it's Pepsi by Rockstar for 3.8 billion.
So can you do a little bit of that homework for me? Find out the capital value of Red Bull. It'll just be online, and also of Monster. And put, I think that's, I mean, I said $1 billion or 2 billion, maybe I'm too low, 3.8 billion, but I do think you have the potential to do something like that. So give me a little bit of ammunition there, Steve, okay?
Perfect.
And I read everything you sent me, by the way, so it was very good.
Bruce, ammunition, it's our specialty, So.
I understand that. I get it. I really do. Okay. I had a couple of other questions for you, and that just one last one, I think. In terms of this product, one of the questions we will be asked is this a one product company? Is there something else that you're going to offer along with this 9mm?
This is our project. We want to offer innovation on receipt. So something different, something really healthy. So because a lot of people take the way to eat and drinks healthy stuff about they can have energy, concentration, but
I read all of that, but is there, because people are often afraid of one product companies. You understand what I'm saying, Steve?
What you said, Bruce?
People are often afraid of investing in one product companies.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's something we're going to be asked. Is there anything else in the pipeline?
Can I just add something, Steve?
Yes, go.
I love you, Bruce. I was actually thinking about that last night, and I was just like thinking about it, and something for me, and I didn't even talk to Steve about it, but something for me that it's been a long time kind of coming. I always wanted to also potentially start a supplement company. right?
I know
I've
that.
always been, I have the experience. So I think that as we create the brand and we create a buzz, I mean, a protein could come out, 9mm protein, you know, a glutamine, a creatine. Like, I mean, I think that then the brand has so much weight that we're able to diversify. And the fact that, again, it's about reaching your target. It's about people reaching their full potential. Just one sec. Les amis, papa, il parle. Merci. Alors, so I think that that could be something, you know, that could be part of it. And then you got all of the branding, you know, you can have t-shirts and the whole shebang like other
Yeah,
companies
the
are doing.
t-shirts are that's just part of your marketing. But what
The supplement.
Steve, what Nick is talking about is really important, because once you have you know, a marketing channel, a channel to deliver to convenience stores, to Walmart, direct to consumer, what else can go through that? And what Nick is talking about, can you imagine your nice wooden box, which has, you know, 9mm, and then it has, you know, protein, you know, bars, or it has other kinds of supplements that are there, right? So
Yeah.
you get a whole like, you know, if you're trying to look like Schwarzenegger, you know, you get a whole, you know, thing in there. So what I would ask you to do, so Nick and Steve, just so you understand, it doesn't mean that you're actually going to do it. It just means that you're going to consider doing it. So Nick, if you don't mind, can you put together a few slides on what else might be coming down the pipeline? On your protein, you know, I don't know the supplement business like you do. You know it inside out. So here are some things that we could add to the marketing channel. You understand what I'm saying, Steve? Marketing channel?
Yep.
Steve? You
Yes,
understand
yeah.
marketing channel? Marketing channel?
Marketing channel.
Yeah, you understand?
Yes.
So we have this marketing channel where all this really great stuff is going. So it's not just 9mm drink, it's 9mm supplements.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really good.
Let's go.
And that could be later. It could be 5 years from now. It could be 2 years from now. It could be never. But we have to sort of, you know, that's the sex appeal that I was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with that. So I pass no one night before sleep to think about vision, new stuff, new. We need to bring something.
Yeah, we do.
Now we are the start to
It's a
launch this,
fantastic.
but we need to think.
It's a fantastic program. So do you guys have your calendars there? Can you look at your calendar?
Yeah.
So I'm going to just look at mine while we're here. And what I'd like to do is I would like to target.
Just give me 15 seconds.
Take your time. So do I still have some of you guys online here with me?
Yeah, I'm here.
We're all here.
Okay, so what I was hoping we would do is we would target a presentation.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, we would target a presentation. This would be, you know, a draft or a mock run. So we would do 9mm draft or mock presentation. If you guys are available, we would do that on September 29th at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And then we would do it for real on Thursday, so 2 days later, which is October 1st at 11 a.m.
Huh? Normally at this, I will be in Reunion Island again. But,
when are you going back to Reunion?
Sorry,
Steve, when are you going back?
I need to be there for the 25 because I have a big meeting with a big company there. So, but it's no problem for me. 11, it will be 7 p.m. there. So.
Are you sure it's okay? All right.
Yes, I will.
So if you could put in your schedule for the 29th of September, what we'll do is the group will come together and we will do a fake presentation, okay? We'll practice. Steve,
Okay.
you
Yes.
understand practice?
Yeah, I understand very well.
Okay,
Okay.
and then then the next day, we have one day to change the slides and improve the presentation. And then we do it for real on the 1st of October.
Okay, so the 1st October, it will be for
Yep.
real.
And so, and Steve and Ritchie, Danny and Nick, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'd like you guys to do is think about a guest list for October 1st. It could be investors, friends and family, whoever you think is appropriate to that. We're going to pitch on the 1st of October, we're going to pitch 2 types of investments. One that Ritchie talked about, just a debt instrument, that's it, with a little bit of a bonus. And the other will be an investment that rewards them with an 11.1% ownership interest and some debt. And it could be a strategic partner. It could be somebody who's interested in, it could be a convenience store if you wanted, a Couche-Tard or any of the 7-Eleven. It could be friends and family. It could be investors that you know, Nick. So I need you guys to think about who is on that list. I need their names and their email addresses, and the invitation is going to come from me. The reason it comes from me is I'm like considered a third party. I have no equity interest in this. I have no, I'm a coach, obviously, but I don't have any ownership, and there's no possibility of a conflict of interest for me. Everybody understand?
Yes.
So,
At what time, the 1st October, Bruce?
so the 1st of
11.
October will be for but I need you to give me the names that you want me to invite, you know, at least a week or 10 days before. I don't want to invite them the day before, it's too late. So
No.
I need a list sort of around the middle of September. You guys do it together. And it would be very helpful if between now and the middle of September, if you guys could have a private meeting amongst yourselves, so that when people ask, well, what does Steve own? What does Danny own? What does Nick own? And what does Ritchie own? I don't say I don't know.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay?
Bruce,
Yes, sir.
Bruce, so it's going to start at 11.
Yep.
And then my question, this is, so on Tuesday, September 29, that's when it's like a dry run.
Dry run.
And then
Yep.
Thursday, October 1st, it's from 11 until what time? How many investors because we got to have to block schedule. How many investors can we?
Well, you can, I mean, it's a webinar. You can have, you know, you can have 20 people on the call. It doesn't matter. You know, I don't think we're going to have 100, but we certainly could have 15 or 20 people on that call. No problem.
Gentlemen,
Oh, so
just a heads up, my phone might die anytime.
Okay, so are you dying
I
already?
don't have my charger.
All right, so hang on a second.
Touch me.
Okay.
I'm at 3.
So don't go anywhere, Richie. I need to ask you a question, okay?
Okay.
Just give me 1 second. So what the presentation will be an hour and a half maximum. All right. So they will be, we'll start at 11 Eastern time. We will finish at 12:30, no longer than that.
Okay, so we're not doing, so this won't be personal because I know that some investors personally, I know that they would like to have more of a personal presentation where they're going to ask certain questions themselves. If I have a group of 5 investors, I'm not sure if everybody's going to, you know, I would rather do a 30-minute pitch and do like 4 of them that day every 30 minutes than doing a group.
I'm okay with that. And what I would like you to do then, Nick, is get a list of all the potential investors, your 5, a few, maybe Steve has a few, and Ritchie I know has a few. And I will budget from 11 o'clock on the 1st of October. I will budget in terms of time from 11 until 3:30. So we will have, if we need, we can have up to 4.5 hours. And Nick, you cannot do a presentation. You cannot do a presentation in 30 minutes. It does require 50 to 60 minutes.
An hour.
So it does. So if we have from 11 until 3:30, that's 4.5 hours. We could do 4.
Perfect.
All right.
Yeah,
But you guys. So if you don't mind, you give me a list of names. I will do the invitation, and you should say, okay, these 5, and then these 7, and then these 3, and then these 2. Okay, I'm good with that.
Yeah, but we're gonna,
Yep.
Nick, on va discuter ensemble, puis on va vraiment choisir des gens. On mettra pas des gens pour rien qu'on pense qu'ils.
Oh no. We'll use we'll bring up the top 4 that we all have as a group. We will pre-schedule saying,
Yeah.
okay, this one's from 11 to 12. So when we tell Bruce, we give Bruce the name, the email, and say that gentleman's from 11 to 12. Bruce gonna send the invite.
I will send the invoice because Steve, if it comes from the founder of the Ottawa Senators, the coach, you know, it's different than
Guys,
it
I
comes
have
from you.
1%.
Big pardon?
Bruce, I don't know if you have a question
What?
for me, but I have 1% left.
Okay, so I need to talk to Ritchie for a minute. Can I say goodbye to everybody else?
Yep.
All right. Adios and thank
Awesome.
you.
Okay,
All
guys.
right.
Okay.
So
Thanks,
long,
Bruce. Bye.
So just wait. So Steve?
Ciao, ciao.
Bruce, if
Okay, so just have to talk to you, Ritchie, about one thing very quickly. You gave me a credit card that was declined.
what?
You gave me a credit card.
Me?
Yes, that was declined. Was it not your credit card?
I honestly, I have no idea what.
Just because I have a coaching agreement here, I'll show it to you. That maybe it's not your credit card, but I thought it was. Give me 1 second. Oh hell! Oh, here it is. Sorry, I've got it.
What did you give?
I'll show it to you. Just give me 1
Sorry,
second.
Bruce. I didn't, Bruce,
Yeah.
I'm just going to give you another phone number. If we get disconnected for
Yeah.
any
What's the
reason,
number? Just give me the number.
just give me a sec there. I don't even know it by heart. It's my new
It's your new
my
number.
new
Yeah.
phone. Where?
I gotta stop recording here.